Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wake Up Missoula. I'm your host, Scott Ramp, here to usher you into October 24th, 2025. Talk about events, talk about news, talk about some city council as we jump right in. The city council was back just this last Monday to talk about the Riverfront Trail community being developed near the Jeanette Rankin School. This has kind of been an ongoing thing for quite some time. I'm only going to briefly touch on this because it's one of those things that are kind of bears repeating now. So Tara Picari, senior planner for the city, talks about this site a little bit more.
Here's the location of the entire subdivision. It's over by Jeanette Rankin Elementary and the Bitterroot River just off of Lower Miller Creek Road. It was granted preliminary plat approval back in December of 2022 with 4 phases total, so still fairly recent. It contains 176 lots total on nearly 93 acres, and it's zoned RT 5.4 residential with a large park across or along the river that was zoned OP2 open and resource lands.
Okay, so as you can see here, there's just a lot of development happening right here. Lower Miller Creek Road here, which kind of goes adjacent to Linda Vista, the Den, those businesses there. They're looking to potentially, with a red tip right here, is where they have the proposed roundabout when they're having more and more traffic coming in and out of this new development. Like it said, 176 lots. It's zoned RT, not to be confused with R, because the RT is the ability to create those townhouses where you have attached. Well, residential without the T is very much related to just residential detached housing kind of thing. So the T adds that kind of zoning component for that as well. So as you can see on the site, there's a big chunk of land developers want to develop. However, the city has had some back and forth creating the zoning in the area to include payment by the developer to help put in the roundabout, how much they're going to be putting into it, whether that's going to be an SID of the future owners or part of the current owners. And so overall, this is an update of the zoning to make sure the phase is matching up with zoning updates approval of development, as this is also on the backdrop of the state's law when in lieu of changes to development code overall. So there's a lot of this stuff going on here, and this has been ongoing since 2022, as you heard. As we go into further confusion with the city government on the consent agenda, the move to de-annex properties. I'm actually going to skip this line. I'm going to jump on over to the consent agenda item and is determined to public comment. So there's been some public comment during city council saying that, we want to be able to present our public comment on non-agenda items at the beginning of the meeting rather than it being weighted towards the end of the meeting. The city decided to make that change to allow for 20 minutes on the front half for people who showed up first and foremost to air their grievances. And apparently the people who do those first 20 minutes, they are not allowed to do public comment on the tail end after they do the public comment because it's part of one session rather than just 2 free-for-all public comment sections. So Chris Kennedy, one of the residents, spoke on this, and this is what he had to say about that.
Life is like a metronome, you know, things go far too far in one direction. For example, moving all public comment to the end of the meeting. Ridiculous. You've seen what that has done to public comment. It's removed it for all practical purposes. And now the metronome is swinging back, perhaps not far enough back, but 20 minutes. That is so much better than nothing. I'm just here to say I hope all of you give yourselves a pat on the shoulder and back, because that is why you're here, to listen to your people. I don't believe any of you received business degrees. You're not here to conduct business, in my opinion. You're here to represent your people.
Okay, so that's some of the public comment that you can expect from some of the folks, and one of those also included Sage Bennett, one of the regulars who actually was outspoken during the closure of the Johnson Street shelter, and this is what she had to say.
There being a lack of prioritization showed on city council when it comes to hearing from your constituents, when it comes to answering questions from your constituents, when it comes to helping your constituents understand the choices that are being made by city council and how those are going to affect their lives. moving public comment to the beginning is something that I really strongly believe in, and I'm incredibly grateful for the individuals that are endorsing this and are asking for City Council to reverse a decision that was made recently to push public comment to the end of meetings. I don't understand why that happened, why suddenly it was no longer a priority to represent your constituents, to hear from them. I wonder if this de-annexation issue would have been brought up sooner had there been this accessibility for the public to have opportunity to talk to you.
So yeah, that's just one of the many public comments during that as well. And she also mentioned that denying public comment at the beginning has created a disconnect from council to address the council's reasoning behind putting the public comment towards the end of the meeting, which so they can get done with the business in the very beginning, and the public comment section would be for like, is there anything else we've missed that we want to talk about that it was not part of the consent agenda, which most people tend to show up for city council meetings because of the consent agenda, and then public comment is always like, oh, you forgot something. So that's the justification of how the city moved forward with that. That was their simple logic behind pushing public comment towards the end so they can focus on the administrative part and get everything that they needed to get done and have people air their grievances on those particular topics. And yes, it also rubbed a lot of people the wrong way because people want to have that kind of freedom to have that kind of public statement at the beginning and the top of the meeting, where basically, that's the thing, is that attention spans, they drop off. It's just the way it is. You can't help it. It doesn't matter if it's the first 10 seconds or it's after maybe 20 minutes or heck, even the last 7 minutes you've been watching this show as well. So Danielle Petrie, during public comment, spoke about other projects in association with the SAM project and how she's not too happy about the reduction in parking in the Hip Strip and the downtown Greater Missoula area.
You'll find many people in the community who, myself included, we understand that traveling by bike and walking is best for us as individuals, us as a community, and for our planet as a whole. However, we also understand that assuming that everyone can travel by bike or walking is a privileged perspective to come from. That does not account for people in our community who have physical limitations and those who need to travel from further away to conduct business in our downtown area. There's no doubt that reducing the number of travel lanes and eliminating 86 parking spots is going to make traveling by car more difficult. I'm concerned that this is going to increase people having more road rage and being less careful at intersections where they're more likely to hit cyclists and pedestrians trying to speed through the light because they've been sitting in traffic trying to get through our downtown area. I would also like you to ask yourself, what is the purpose of our downtown, the heart of Missoula? To me, it's commerce. That's what the downtown is for. We have many parts of Missoula with great places to ride a bike and walk, 22 miles of trails through our city that are safe for everyone. If you want a safe place to ride, you can go there. If you need a place to do business, we have a downtown for that. So when you're talking to community members, I'm sure you'll find some folks that are in support of the project. And I've had a lot of lengthy conversations with at least a dozen of these people. And I would like you to ask them, what is your vision for downtown? Does it include businesses? Are they worried about businesses closing? Because most of them are not.
All right. So, yep, that was a perspective of that. And as we get towards the end of the meeting, Sierra Farmer responds to some of the critiques that have been given about public comment in general. And this was her response.
I've heard a lot of people tonight say how unreachable city council is and how we're not transparent and not available. And it's hard for me to wrap my brain around that. As someone who works full time, I have spent many of my lunch breaks talking to my constituents. I've used vacation time to meet with them. A lot of times I'm driving my car using Bluetooth to talk to my constituents while I'm driving my kids, telling them to be quiet so that I can talk to my constituents. So I find it just kind of mind-boggling that is sort of a rhetoric that's actually out there. I don't think there's an email I haven't answered. I think that this body, we work so hard to be reachable. And if you're not getting through to us, maybe it's your delivery. Maybe it's how you're speaking to us. Maybe that's why we're not as receptive as you would like us to be.
Yeah, I kind of fumbled the ending on that one. So overall, the meeting was about an hour long, and they had their basic zoning update to subject properties. There's pretty little fanfare for public comment, as it focused a lot on the same people who have routinely criticized the city on a semi-regular basis, mind you. Public comment overall. Time limit in the beginning will allow for early birds to get their comments in, while most will have to wait to the last portion of the public comment section on non-agenda items. Which doesn't have the same time limit. It's a compromise the city made for some time now. So as we move on, we're going to talk about some committee meetings, get into more of the minutia of what happened for Wednesday's meetings. Public Work talked about the latest findings on Reserve Street through the MPO and Montana Department of Transportation, metropolitan area. And they're talking about trying to get to net zero incidents. So their goal is always to push it every 10, 20 years into the future. A lot of promises to create safety with the Reserve Street. And Nick Foster with Kittleson and Associates, the other firm that is working with design standards and working with the community and the state. So they're talking about lighting Reserve Street south of the bridge, and a little bit more on that as well. So here is Nick Foster.
That area, as you head south on Reserve towards the ramps, you've got a couple of things going on. You've got a long section without maybe a signal or something else along the way. And so we've got some higher speeds there. So adding dynamic speed feedback signs, which are those signs that tell you how fast you're going as you go by, and hopefully alert you if you're going over the speed limit and let you know to slow down. And then also, as you're going over that bridge, maybe you don't know there's a signal coming up, and you're not expecting to run into the back of a queue of stopped vehicles, especially at the speed you're going. And so adding some advanced warning signs. And we've also recommended looking into tying those signs into that signal so that they give some type of flashing indication if the signal is red or about to turn red. There's some definitely considerations there with that type of situation.
All right, so overall they want to figure out exactly how to mitigate the speed, because between 3rd and Reserve and Mullen Reserve, there's no street light, and it's a pretty large stretch of road, and if you're not going at least 55 miles per hour with the other traffic, you're going too slow and people are going to be passing you left and right. It's one of those speed areas that are just so hard to kind of control, not to mention it's now well lit, and especially for those folks living up River Road who have trouble getting access. But they've determined that a lot of studies found that most people don't even use River Road's turnoff if they're going on to there from Reserve Street. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But if you're not going, but Nick also focuses on Mullen's turning lane. And so this is where it gets really weird. So this proposal is very interesting in its regard to eliminating the left turns altogether on Mullen and Reserve. So I'll let Nick talk and show you what they propose.
Turn conflict style of intersection, which is just a fancy way of saying we've moved the left turn somewhere else. And so in this case, what we're analyzing is an option that it keeps the northbound lefts. Those are pretty heavy movements and would be difficult to relocate. But it takes the other left turns, and you can see them shown here on the screen. I'll start with the eastbound left shown on that light blue. The eastbound left turn, when it hits Mullen, would actually go through the intersection, and then it would either make a U-turn at or before Great Northern, and then come back around and make a right turn to go north on Reserve. Alternatively, they could also make a left at Great Northern, go up Great Northern, and then use Palmer or American or Union Pacific or some other intersection to access Reserve.
All right, so as you can see from this particular picture, I hope that, this really is, I wish I can zoom on this particular shot right here, but let me see if I can get a quick picture of this particular intersection mindset so you can get a better idea of what it looks like. I'm gonna bring it on over to a bigger screen. Put it out there for you guys to see. But yeah, this is what they proposed for Reserve Street. This isn't a definite, just so you guys know, this is preliminary planning based on output from people. Left turning onto Mullen is a nightmare. It is the worst thing ever. So part of what they're trying to do is trying to extend the left turn about, I would say, about a block further up, and then just you loop around and then you turn right. So the intersection is technically right turn only, with further up down the lane to allow for you to have a turnaround for when you do eventually turn in the direction that you want to go to. There you go. So that's a lot. It's asking for quite a lot. Essentially, yeah. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility that many people who give input on these studies want to increase safety and regular flow of traffic to force those coming out of highway traffic to slow down. So. Instead of more stop signs, more signage altogether, they want to create traffic flows and funnels to help basically force people to slow down based on the way that the road changes. So in a way, with transportation planning, Charlie Menifee talks about the roundabout, which I'm sure you guys know all about.
Looking at those trade-offs between the right in, right out, restricted left turn, and sort of no through travel on the east-west sort of travel direction on American Way, as compared to a full signal and a roundabout. We very much, the MPO, favor a full signal and a roundabout, as it would be adding to a sort of a network of connectivity that would benefit Mullen area or Swatuckin area neighborhoods. And we have been using our traffic volumes, both current and then projected out to 2050, to see how traffic operates, including using some mechanisms of the interrelation between the Mullen Road intersection and the changes there, as well as associated with American Way, just to see as that network would likely be operating in a different manner.
All right. So yeah, I mean, if you want to change or have a traffic flow in the area is not only people in town, but highway traffic, typical vehicles, I-90 to 93 South and vice versa. They lightly touched on the River Road, and because not many people use it, like I said before, mitigating traffic in the area would be less costly to fix. So overall, the plans are out, and you can get a deeper look into this meeting as you get closer to development to reduce car accidents overall. So essentially, this is like a dramatic change to address a dramatic demand of Mullen and Reserve. Not just that, but just the overall majority of intersections off Reserve that have been problematic. 4 out of 5 most problematic intersections in Missoula is Reserve Street, and I believe that Mullen and Reserve and even Brooks and Reserve have a tendency to be one of the most dangerous intersections in the state. So they've been speaking about this forever, and there's been a lot of red tape, because you have to understand it's not just Missoula's road, it's also Montana Department of Transportation. The state has to have final say in how it moves forward with this. So we both have local, regional, state, a lot of things happening to get this thing, the ball rolling. So when they invest all this money into making it safer, they want to make sure it's functional at the same time. So as we move on, housing redevelopment and community planning are funding outreach services for the Poverello Center, aka the HOT team. So this is continuation of their contract in about $200,000. Serena, the community development with the city of Missoula, talks about these outreach programs and some of their outcomes.
So the Poverello Center remains a formal access point within Missoula's coordinated entry system, ensuring that people experiencing homelessness can be assessed and prioritized for housing services through a consistent and equitable process. POV staff are to be trained as skilled assessors, which includes all members of the homeless outreach teams plus 7 additional staff. The contract includes monthly and quarterly metrics, which are 12 matching to appropriate placement assessments per month to connect individuals to the right housing resources. 8 housing problem-solving conversations per month recorded in the Homeless Management Information System, or HIMIS, focused on creative person-centered solutions outside of shelter entry when possible. And that's up from last year. Last year it was 4 per month. This year it's 8.
All right. So yeah, they're ramping up their public outreach in terms of connecting with homeless business owners and more. A lot of these times they hire formless homeless folks to engage with others to help them navigate the system, as it is being fleshed out in terms of utilizing resources and data gained through the housing sprint. Emily Armstrong, Community Development, talks about outreach programs available. This is something that you also should know, not opposed to homeless people should know, because a lot of times homeless folks don't have access to the information that we're privy to through our engagement with City Council community meetings, and more. Listen, I'm very engaged with City Council because I work at MCAT. We're like the C-SPAN for Missoula. So I get a lot of the boring stuff and I try to make sure it makes more sense, but here's Emily Armstrong talking a little bit more about these programs.
There are other agencies that are doing similar work in Missoula. There are various agencies that provide outreach support. The homeless outreach team is the largest and most targeted, but there's outreach support that Hope Rescue Mission provides, and then there are a number of agencies that do outreach work either for specific populations. For instance, Partnership Health Center does street medicine outreach, where they're delivering medical care out in the streets to folks who are living outdoors. And then other nonprofits may have staff who deliver services, harm reduction services, or various types of services as they relate to their mission, with just a few hours every week, staff who kind of take a portion of their work to go do that.
All right, so yep, that was Emily Armstrong with Community Planning. Talk a little bit more about that. Bob Campbell came forward and was basically wanted to kind of like reduce the funding for the HOT teams and outreach programs for them as well. He reflects on the costs and the other security apparatuses that have been put into place to mitigate homelessness overall in the city of Missoula and regionally.
I've done some digging, and if you recall, a few sessions ago, earlier this month, we just renewed a contract with Black Knight Security. Two separate contracts, one within City Hall, council chambers itself, but the other for parks and public rights of way. And that contract was in the amount of $779,861. And at that time, I had voiced my consternation, the fact that we have Black Knight personnel going to the Poverello to conduct business. However, Poverello does not pay for the services that are being provided on behalf of the taxpayer of the city of Missoula. And I know that there's other folks on this body here that have shared that similar concern. I've reached out to Black Knight, and they provide some data with regards to visits to Poverello since January 1st this year, by way of reports that they make. And thus far, from January 1st through October 20th, the Poverello Center has generated 199 reports out of a total of 1,677 reports citywide. I would add, too, that there's 263 reports at J Street, but I'm completely discounting that because J Street is no longer in operation. But those 199 reports out of 677 amount to 11.8% of the total volume of work that Black Knight Security is doing uncompensated on behalf of the taxpayers of the city of Missoula. So that works out to a Poverello share of $92,024 that I feel that they're directly responsible for.
All right, so essentially, Bob Campbell's trying to make a point about how we invest all this money in all these organizations. Bob doesn't want to keep funding these programs because he claims that the HOT team don't have the numbers to reflect the need for HOT teams on top of Black Knight Security, essentially putting more burden of proof on these homeless outreach teams, otherwise known as the HOT teams. Stacey Anderson, City Council, responds to Bob Campbell's claims.
It is threading the needle of providing support to the community in the neighborhoods directly around the Poverello Center, but the fact that the Poverello Center itself is generating calls and yet doesn't have an individual contract with with Black Knight, I did find concerning, and it sort of feels like, how do we hold them accountable for being a better partner in that, but yet not taking away money for a program that is sort of, I think, a program that is very vital to our most vulnerable members of the population. So I guess my question is to Emily.
All right, so we go some more back and forth, trying to delineate and kind of go deeper into this as well, but the amendment would have cut funding for the hot teams by over $100,000, but many of the members voted against it. The consequences of relying on Black Knight Security simply to refuse access to public places for individuals who meet a certain homeless criteria rather than provide them with a trained individual who keep constant contact with them. Security protects the client. The hot team is something completely different. Overall, the community will be saving $1.8 million because of the closure of the Johnston shelter, so spending $211,476,000 for the hot teams as opposed to $779,000 to the Black Knight Security. And, they're not even wearing body cams. Public Safety and Health addresses the HVAC system in Firehouse 1, but we're not talking about that. We're going to focus on the winter market as it plans to operate. We're going to kind of end on a lighter note as they move for approval. The Clark Fork River Market folks are looking to move indoors to winter market, specifically the Badlander. Shannon Terrio, Environmental Health, and with the Health Department, talks a little bit more about this and just where it's going.
Markets, and as you know, we have several farmers markets in the city of Missoula and others outside the city of Missoula. And so by going through this official route, it allows a farmers market to take advantage of some very specific exemptions and allowances in the retail food law and in the Local Food Choice Act. And without it, that they wouldn't be able to do. And so, for instance, non-potentially hazardous foods like breads can be sold without a license. There are certain home-cooked foods that are prepared at home that can be sold at farmers markets. And then there's also some exempt foods like coffee that can be sold without a license. And then other people are able to get a temporary food service license if they're preparing foods on site.
All right, and that last point is probably one of the most important things I kind of want to leave off on, especially if you're a budding business looking to start selling food, start your own restaurant. Farmers markets are a great resource. You can get permits from the health department, and you could essentially cook right then and there, get a couple hot plates here and there. Of course, you might have to get some approval here and there, but part of this is a great opportunity for a lot of people to show off what they got, supply up, do all those kind of things, and kind of grow their own business through the use of the farmers market. And not to mention, unfortunately, with the EBT and SNAP benefits kind of in doubt coming up in November, the markets also do accept EBT and SNAP benefits for people to buy produce from the farmers markets. So there's opportunities with that as well, and continue this winter market program would also help expand that rather than it just being the winter market by Shields in the mall. As an event, they need permitting approval for liability and the city code. Kayla Nasiri, executive director of Clark Fork River Market, spoke about their reasoning to continue this. And I kind of put it out there for you guys as well, but here she is.
And so you might know us as that larger farmers market. We have about 215 vendors in the summer season. And so our mission is mostly to be a community space that allows people to celebrate local agriculture, but also that allows a space for consumers to come together and, see a local area that both helps our local economy, but also helps our local vendors, create an opportunity to create a livelihood, connect with community members, also give people healthy opportunities to purchase produce and things of that nature. And so 20 years ago, we were founded, as a result of, the Missoula Farmers Market and wanting to have another market in Missoula. And through this time, we have created some really wonderful relationships with our vendors. At the end of the season, we say goodbye to them and we let them go and we see them again in May. And
that's not quite the case, as this Saturday is the last typical summer to late October outdoor farmers market, and the winter market for the Clark Fork River Market will continue inside the Badlander the Palace Apartments, the base, all the businesses that they have right there. And it'll, apparently, according to their Facebook post, as of about a day ago, they're basically saying that they're going to be starting their winter market on November 15th, that Saturday. So we're going to have a couple Saturdays off from that, and we're going to be joining them at that point. So with that, I'm going to conclude my City Council report. If you want to learn more information, you can go to engagemissoula.com or go to ci.missoula.mt.us for all your permitting needs for everything related to the city and more. And for everything related to the community of Missoula, you can look us up on our YouTube page, MCAT TV Missoula, where we're going to have a whole bunch of programs and especially a bunch of new ones that are airing right now.
And I hope that you all can find hope that we're still here. Currently in Montana, the right to vote for tribal nations has been under attack continually. Over and over, every legislative session, there are people coming to defend tribal right to vote. From long-distance polling locations and restrictive ID laws to unequal access to ballot collections. And these are not isolated incidents. They are deliberate, systemic structures that are intended to create barriers and make it hard for the Native voice to be heard in this democracy.
What hasn't been said out loud, that all four of us being female artists and craft often being associated with feminine work, female artwork, I feel like this really kind of exemplifies the idea that there isn't necessarily a line, like it all is just kind of like we are all very good artists and we all touch on craft in one way or another in all four of our practices. And that I think that delineating and saying that there is fine art or there is craft ends up being reductive, right? That I think that they have to influence each other one way or the other. As far
and we have a farmer this year named Megan Fow, who's up the Bitterroot, this is her first year farming, and so she's grown a bunch of pumpkins for us, which is great. She has committed to being our pumpkin dealer from here on out, so we're pretty excited about
that's
that.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and she's donating all the pumpkins to us, so that's awesome. We had a harvest a few weeks ago. That was so lovely. We had a bunch of volunteers come out to the farm, and we actually picked the pumpkins and loaded them up into those big boxes that you see at the grocery stores, and then drove them out to the Montana Food Bank Network, who is very generously donating space to us to store our pumpkins throughout the whole month.
Hey guys, welcome back. We got lots of movies that are coming out this week, and it's time for Pre-Critic, where I prejudge a movie based on the only thing that matters is my prejudgment towards movies altogether, whether I've seen it or not, which most likely I haven't seen most of the movies that are coming out, so I'm just going to judge them based on posters, some trailers, and some basic blurbs. When you have these romantic dramas that cover heavy topics like death and forgiveness, comes yet another one of those films. Essentially, two couples hang out more than they probably should, and infidelity catches up with them, with the bad partners, to the couples that are having an affair with one another. And then of course karma has a funny way of punishing those. So the cheating infidelity couple, they die in a car accident, and their families are left with the truth that they're like, oh, they were hooking up, your parents were hooking up, and now it's the two remaining parents that can't really get along anymore, not really friends, all at the same time while the little girl is, or not the little girl, but the teenage daughter, because it has to be a teenager, because, what's more dramatic than a teenage daughter? So we add that in there. She has her own budding romance with this guy, and her mom's like, oh, my husband cheated on me, then died. I'm trauma dumping on you, so therefore you can't be happy because I'm not happy. So that's kind of like what you could expect from the movie. All right, then we got an anime, Chainsaw Man, the Res arc. The Res is short for residue, like a bomb, which represents the creature of this world that exists only because the humans' collective fears that manifest into real-life devils. It's weird. Anyways, this one is more or less a continuation of an anime series. Too greedy to release it to a streaming service because anime is very mainstream now. And many people are just jumping off the Marvel train and basic Hollywood slot for something that is basically brings the worst of humanity to defend us from devils while employing devils themselves. There's basically your rundown of this movie. Here's a couple movies that are coming out that I'm going to speed right through. Spring String, Deliver Me From Nowhere, when a musician decides to get some extra cash after the tour is done. Then we got Blue Moon. I assume this song will play at some point because it's the guy who wrote it. It's their biopic. From the guy who made Oklahoma to My Funny Valentine is a writer of many of those old-timey songs that exist in the cultural zeitgeist, and you're probably humming it to yourself as I'm wrapping up. Shelby Oaks. You know, horror films are just kind of going for it in terms of expanding the way we experience terror on a personal level. This is one of those movies that are trying to push the envelope. Anyways, watch a childhood trauma turn into real life horror as some lady frantically searches for her sister who apparently had a more than just an imaginary friend. That's the thing. All right, Queens of the Dead. Well, if drag queens can't read to kids at libraries, they're going to do a zombie movie. Plenty of laughs from a series of movies that dabble in genres of what if zombies and drag queens collide? Enjoy a bunch of double entendres. While drag queens are the main character, it also includes another group that have to put away their differences to come together to fight the bigger threat. It's very, I never thought of it that way kind of film. So those are the movies that are coming out this weekend. I have a new dubbing stuff for you guys. My last couple dubbing stuff have been kind of flagged by YouTube, but this one I made sure to go in the public domain. And here is from the 1931 movie, Kept Husbands. Here's dubbing stuff.
La la la, la la la. Oh, oh, hey, welcome home. It's good to see you.
Hey, Granny. Guess what? I got a job at a fast food restaurant. They're paying me $5.95 an hour.
Oh, that's great.
And I think I'm ready to afford a home.
Oh, well, oh, that's, oh, what's wonderful news.
Oh, yeah. And the house I saw that I wanted was $55,000 and it's across the street.
Oh, that's just wonderful. Don't you think that's a little expensive?
My part-time job will pay for everything.
Well, perhaps you have some left over to take me to Paris. My neighbor's granddaughter brought them to London, and I so much would like to one-up them with a trip to Paris. Perhaps after a couple months you've had your job, you'll be able to afford it? Oh, I know you want to get that wedding ring that you promised your wife.
Actually, I got something I want to show you. All right, see?
Oh, hi. I know I'm wearing gloves, but I swear, I have a ring.
Well, Granny, I hope you have the time because we're going to get you some great-grandkids. Pretty soon, actually. We just got married.
I told him we had to stop at 7 kids because I don't think we can afford the 8. Welcome to the family. Oh, I can't wait to make you grandkids fight for your inheritance. I just want 20% of my kids to live.
I just hope that they come up with a vaccine for the polio virus because that's a killer.
And we all know polio was invented by the commies. Okay, you can let go. I said let go of me, I swear.
Oh,
I'm gonna
Granny.
scream.
You're so funny.
Hold on a second, dear. I got a brooch for you. I'm breaking my bones. Oh, well, your grandma's so lovely. I can't wait till she dies.
And we'll buy all sorts of trips to Paris or whatever she calls it. Whatever. Let's not argue over the minutia.
But the minutia is all I live for. I needed to complain about the minutia thing.
All right. That's enough. Let's change the subject. Yeah, and with that extra capital, we'll be able to invest in all sorts of fun activities.
I've been meaning to ask you, do you think you can lend some money to my dad? Oh, I'd be more than willing to give all sorts of things. Here, have a cookie. Oh, wow. Wait, that's not a cookie. What is it? Well, it's a cookie-shaped brooch I got from the flea market. You see, it has like a base of brown metals with some shiny crystals and diamonds. Wow, it looks like a crafts project. It's like some kid put some sprinkles on some shit. Oh, I like a good woman who swears and knows when to swear at the right time.
You should see when she drinks, but she drinks all the time. Hold on. Let me put on some music for y'all.
Oh, he has some terrible taste in some music, by the way, so... Oh, there it is. Pay no mind to him. He just gets excitable about a lot of different things. Oh, that's nice, but I'm just so happy to be your new granddaughter. How old are you, and when are you gonna die? Oh, you're so funny.
let's talk about some things that are happening in the city of Missoula. Sorry about that. Let's see. There we go. I got to fix that real quick. I initialized a loop on there. So let's jump right into some events that are happening in the city of Missoula. If you're interested in bringing your little kiddo for a mommy and me kind of workout classes, Bonner Park daily starting at 9:30 a.m. Stroller Strides, it's mommy and me workout class. If you're looking for some indoor fun with you and your kiddos, Mismo Gymnastics, Roots Acre Sports Center, Get Air, Sports Farm, YMCA, and Currents Aquatic Center are great indoor spaces for a lot of people to stay active while also staying warm. Missoula Food Bank meal distribution is going on, still ongoing, so you guys can still donate to the organization to make sure that people who are economically challenged to be able to get their fresh produce and such. Tiny Tales, as always, here at the Missoula Public Library starting at 10:30 a.m. It's a great way for kids 0 to 5 to learn to read. Lunch at the Missoula Senior Center. This is happening every day, Monday through Friday at 11:30 a.m. The Poverello Center also has breakfast, lunch, and dinners at select times every single day, without stop, even on holidays. Yarns and Watercolor here at the Missoula Public Library every Friday on the 4th floor at noon. Pop-up free store at the old frat house. This is at 1221 Arthur Avenue. This is pop-up free stores back at the old frat house near the University of Montana, and they need your help to make it happen again. So it's a free store and your local Missoula neighbors, swaps, all sorts of fun stuff like that happening today at noon. Home Resource Open Workshop for any fixer-uppers from home. You can bring into Home Resource and they'll help you fix it up, and they have tools there provided at 12:30 Fridays. All Abilities Art Club at Base. This is a great way for people with disabilities to interact with one another, get resources, and just do some art for art's sake. Brown Bag and Bones, paleontologist Jason C. Poole is joining the Montana Natural History Center with Brown Bag and Bones. You can learn all sorts of things about owl palettes, all sorts of nature things and whatnot, all by paleontologists. Makerspace, Linux-based Replacing Windows 11 seminar. So here at the Missoula Public Library at 2:30 p.m. this afternoon, and also Saturday. There, if you're considering not using Windows 10 anymore, since support for Microsoft will end in October, join for the free seminar Linux Basics for Replacing Windows 10 for those that don't want to make the switch to Windows 11 and have it easily run on your PC. Nothing new is needed. They'll cover the essentials and answer any questions you may have. So, computer stuff, right? Sourdough baking at the Lifelong Learning Center. It's basically learning how to do sourdough baking at 3 o'clock at the Lifelong Learning Center off 3rd Street. Predator feeding at 3:30 p.m. the Missoula Butterfly House. Show how those bugs eat each other, essentially. The Montana Natural History Center is also doing a fall auction and banquet at the University of Montana University Center's ballroom on the 3rd floor at 5 p.m. Gather with us for an evening of food, drinks, and fun. Support the museum, science, and nature education programs for the community and support their mission of connecting people of all ages to nature. Embodied trauma-informed training, Laura Rattlesnake Private Studio. This is want to know the understanding and tools for soothing your own nervous system and best supporting the nervous system of others. This Missoula upcoming workshop for interested in integrating an embodied understanding of trauma-informed therapy into their lives and or work on others, mental health counselors, physical therapists, yoga teachers, all that kind of stuff. It's basically a health seminar. A Montana Film Festival prevents animation short block starting at 5:15. The Montana Film Festival is kind of going on this weekend in a way. Animation has always been a part of the Montana Film Festival, but has been finally getting its own program. So Montana Film Festival, all their films, all their stuff, all their listings, they basically started on Thursday this week, and they're going to go until Sunday. So they have a bunch of short blocks, long blocks, a lot of things, even some of the short films that are have potential to win Oscars. So definitely a lot of great stuff. Also, if you're interested in going out and about and enjoying some music, live jazz at Leaf and Quiet, featuring Jazz Off the Rails at 5:30 p.m. Rooster Cafe is doing a night dinner and game night at 6 p.m. Tango Dance Party, the Moonlight Studios, Dungeons and Dragons online at through the Missoula Public Library, Guild for Adults, which Please, it's a hat workshop at the AR workshop. They have a lot of do-it-yourself and group crafts projects, and it's the AR workshop in Missoula. So that's the one of downtown, I believe. Karaoke at the Jack Saloon at 7 p.m. Missoula Folklore folk dance is starting at 7 p.m. at Elks Lodge. Slow Spokes at free cycles. They're doing Snail Fest. Bring your friends, family, and neighbors to this first ever film fest dedicated to bike packing stories made by and about trans, non-binary, gender expansive, and women riders. And even packed with inspiring films and raffle prizes galore, starting at 7 p.m. at Free Cycles tonight. Jacob Jolliffe Band is going to be playing at Longstaff House at 7 p.m. Sorry, I'm trying to speed through it, but I got to slow down. Swing Dance at the Jive, beginning at Shotgun Sanctuary at 7 p.m. Never heard of them before. Anything Goes at Anything Goes is a play at the School of Theater and Dance at the UM-Par TV building, and it is proud to present a fall co-production, a charming new musical comedy, Anything Goes, with music and lyrics by Cole Porter, music original book by P.G. Wodehouse and Guy Bolton, Howard Lindsay and Russell Cruz, the new book and a new book by Timothy Cruz and John Weidman. It's Boy Meets Girl on a Boat, Reno Sweeney, Sir Evelyn Oakland, Hope Harcourt, Billy Corker mix up in the searching for love in a 1930s romp for one of Cole Porter's most famous scores, featuring the classic songs I Get a Kick Out of You, Blow Gabriel Blow, and of course the title song Anything Goes. So that's going to be performed this weekend and next weekend through the UM Theater and Dance Company. Exit 12, Stories of War. This is at Westside Theater. They're going to be showing a powerful dance theater experiencer. Ooh, geez. Stories of War, and they're going to explore emotional landscape of military life through dance, service, sacrifice, resilience, and return. Created with the professional dancers, local veterans, and service members, Stories of War fuses personal narrative and dynamic choreography to honor the human cost of conflicts and the strength of those who endure it. That's happening this weekend at the Westside Theater. Way Down North at the Old Post is going to be performing there at 8 p.m. Rain's going to be performing at Monk's, playing some DJ music. Kyle Curtis and the Promised Land is going to be performing at the Union Club to wrap up your Friday night. And Saturday, your last farmer's market, your last thing, the last chance to go outdoors and enjoy it. It looks like the weather might be pretty fine this weekend. You know, we've been having cold snap the last week or so. I would say the last really nice day of the year was Homecoming Parade. If you guys got a chance to watch that, it's on our MCAT YouTube page. Saturday, fall into Christmas. It's already Christmas, so starting at 9 a.m. at St. Mary Family Center in Stevensville, they're doing a fall into Christmas event. Big event, a lot of things happening there. Check it out. Angie and Aaron's Bacteria Bazaar. If you're willing to go all the way to Hamilton, Montana, they're doing a premier fermentation festival for round 2. They have classes and workshop on variations of fermentation methods from kombucha to miso to pickles to tempeh. And the keynote teacher is Sandor Katz and Christian Shockley, and you can learn how to buy tickets on their website, and it's through MissoulaEvents.net as well. Makerspace walk-in hours, starting here in Missoula Public Library at 10 a.m. 3D print, laser scan, all sorts of fun things like that. Laser engraving, I mean. I always say laser scan. But anyways, scavenger hunt at the Missoula Art Museum, starting at 10 a.m. on Saturday as well. Story time at 10:30 a.m. The Cores of Discovery Travelers Rest State Park is their annual Halloween family event that includes dressing up in costume, playing fun, spooky games, and getting candy and other sweet treats at the Lolo's Travelers Rest State Park. Random walks with Wild Montana, Curry Cabin, Rattlesnake National Recreation Area Trailhead. This is Diane Connor for the modestly strenuous hike up the Curry Cabin remains. They'll meet at the kiosk near the start of the Rattlesnake National Recreation Area at 11 a.m. on Saturday, tomorrow. The hike is about 6 miles and will include about 900 feet of elevation gain. So, let's see, they'll hike up Spring and Coley Gulches to the cabin, then loop back to the Sawmill Mill, and you should be back by the trailhead by 3 or 3:30 p.m., so it's about a 4-hour hike. Trick or Treat or Trick or Trot at River Pines Horse Sanctuary at 12 noon on Saturday, River Pines Horse Sanctuary, so they're doing the Trick or Treat at their horse sanctuary. MCAT Saturday drop-ins every Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. It's a great way for kids to learn stop motion and at the same time video editing. Teen Open Studio at Missoula Art Museum starting at 1 p.m. This is a great way for teens to pick up some brushes and get some supplies supplied to them, courtesy of the Missoula Art Museum. Winterizing, houseplants, and winter care. Care's nursery classes are starting at 2 p.m. on Saturday. Spooky Market at the Florence Building with Missoula Makers. This is at the historic Florence Building at 4 p.m. on Saturday. Farm to Fabric week, the Montana Fiber Journey at the Missoula Fairgrounds, 4 p.m. It's a big event. Netflix and Chill's Cabaret is going to be performing at the Badlander at 7 p.m. A nice cabaret, kind of like musical, sexy, that kind of stuff. Troy Boy at the Wilma. Electronic music at 7 p.m. Square Dance Free Cycles at 7 p.m. Northern Lights Band at the Jack Saloon playing some country at 7 p.m. Candlelight Sessions featuring Good Old Fashions at Sacred Alley playing some bluegrass music at 7 p.m. The Jive, Hot Jazz, and Vintage Swing at the Stave and Hoop at 8 p.m. Karaoke at the West Side Lanes. Chatterbox is going to be at Monk's playing some rap and DJ music. The Owen Ross Band is going to be at Union Club, and DJ Crispin is going to wrap up your Saturday. And as we get into Sunday, the Missoula Public Library will be hosting their Halloween day from noon to about 3 o'clock, Halloween under one roof. Also, if you're interested in doing a fun run, Skeleton Skedaddle 5K and Kids Pumpkin Run at Silver Park starting at 10 a.m. We also have pinball at Odd Pitch at 4 p.m. NFL Bingo at Tamarack at 5 p.m. Soul Cycle, live music and more, playing some bluegrass at Envy at 5 p.m. Dram Shop is having their trivia at 6 p.m. And then very funny weekend comedy at the VFW at 8 p.m. Karaoke at the Sunrise Saloon to wrap up your Sundays. And that's pretty much it. You know, I do have a little bit of time for some news items and stuff like that. I also wanted to mention that ballots have been out as of last week, and one of the biggest changes that they put to it, not only do you have to have your signature to the envelope that was sent to you, but you also have to put your year of birth. So that's a big thing. HB 719 was introduced to solve voter fraud in probably the most mission accomplished attempt to look at like they solved voter fraud in the state rather than actually doing anything, even though voter fraud is very low in the state of Montana. So expect a call from the election office, and so far in more recent news, they said that they have rejected 170 ballots in Missoula alone because of the lack of confusion, lack of clarity. If you even drive by their Russell Street sign, they basically said you have to make sure that you sign and then put your date of birth on it, year of birth, usually just the year of birth. Missoula County sent out roughly 77,000 ballots last week. We only have 121,000 people in Missoula area. So this year the election includes the race for city council and mayor along with proposed county levy for road maintenance funds. The mill levy is something that wasn't discussed or advertised as heavily as last year's firefighting levy that helped retain and expand fire services for much of Missoula City's area. This is more related to the county's attempts to fix a good chunk of the roads, bridges, and basic infrastructure funds to help bolster grants for larger transformative projects for the county. Missoula County Voice wrote on this topic, Missoula County Public Works estimated department needs an additional $4.3 million annually to fully fund the county's infrastructure needs. If passed, the mill levy could also provide funding for federal grants that often require matching funds for local government. If approved in November, the county will prioritize using the funding to repave county mandated roads, provide matching funds when applied for federal grants, and replacing aging bridges. While on that topic, the county will also have your latest property tax evaluation. If you're interested in finding out more, they were mailed out on Thursday, yesterday, the 23rd, and are also available online at missoulataxes.us. For property owners who don't pay their taxes through their mortgage, tax payments for the first half of the year will be postmarked by Monday, December 1st. Tax payments for the second half year is due Monday, June 1st to 2026. So that's if you're not in escrow. The clerk and treasurer's office is accepting tax payments online via credit cards and all of the various, basically it's easy to pay them. While property taxes are impacting homes that have been raising prices with some stability in the market, the biggest story comes out of the fact that there are 500,000 less people in the buying market than the seller's market. Newsweek wrote a story about the Redfin market data that reflect this historic gap from a September 2025 study. The pandemic bump in housing prices soared, nearly doubling houses prices, and the federal interest rate was at its lowest, with many people getting 3.25% interest rates, with some getting as low as 2.66% interest rate on your homes when you refinance during the pandemic. Faced with climbing prices and stubbornly high mortgage rates, buyers started withdrawing from the market this year. Meanwhile, many sellers who locked into their homes with lower monthly payments decided to stop waiting for rates to come down or forced by personal situations to put their properties on the market. The major gap also resulted in the sellers listing over 2 million properties on sale, with buyers leaving the market nearly 500,000 buyers short. What that means is that there's no abundance of people who want to sell hence supply and low demand. So who knows? But the popular culture consistently makes the joke that homes bought for less than $100,000 in the 90s are being sold for more than $2 million today, with little or no increase in the cost of living adjustments. Mind you, the fall is a buyer's market because most people never move in the fall because most people are established, have families, schools, that kind of stuff. They usually try to leave and get their house basically bought and sold by the spring so they can move to their new location for the summer to settle. Then they get their school during the summer. That's usually how it works for most families. Sellers might have gotten overzealous, but with the largest transfer in wealth in history happen over the next 20 years, a lot of that wealth being built up might be for nothing. The Michigan Chronicles wrote a piece on the new J.P. Morgan study this week, and the J.P. Morgan research found 63% of women aged 61 and older already have received an inheritance, and 45% of all those who have received an inheritance said that they would use their new wealth to invest. When women asked what they would do with the future inheritance, travel is their top choice. 93% of women who are expecting an inheritance say they aren't relying on it to reach their financial goals. 3 out of 4 women are confident they're on track to achieve their financial goals, and 73% say having money gives them security. 75% of women in a relationship say they either make decisions together with their partner or take the lead themselves. Women play an important role in many investments across many avenues and involve community engagement. The quiet part out loud is that women tend to live longer and acquire wealth from their husbands, who statistically die earlier, and in many cases don't have wills, and their money goes to their surviving spouses than their kids. You think that, you know, those kind of things that kind of happen with that as well. But I think that one of the biggest stories, and I kind of want to end it on this, and this is going to be getting kind of off my soapboxes, but they tore down the east wing of the White House this week. Very little, just like it happened. It's very much like an historic building in the United States history, basically just demolished completely. You know, you'd think that all the money that they raised for this is probably donated. This is not taxpayer money that put into this thing. You'd think that that money for building this new, I don't know, ballroom with 90,000 square feet for the new east wing of the White House, which is going to basically dwarf the current White House, just to host major events that could effectively hold up to 650 people, with Trump even saying that they could even hold up to 900 people. But the part that they demolished it, it's like, you know, with all the money that's being wasted on these kind of frivolous kind of things here and there, it's like, why not basically move the building to somewhere else to preserve it? You'd think that they would want to save, you know, Mount Vernon, you know, George Washington's home, and just kind of keep it preserved. But yeah, it's one of those things that you just like, you tear down a historic monument, but you don't even think to move it. Like, they have more money than they'll ever need, and no speaking to historic preservations or anything like that. It's just straight up tore it down. It's just like the majority of people hated the fact that they tore it down, but it's like, yeah, but the original building stood there for more than 100 years, and it was originally made for the First Lady and their staff. While 22 heads, you know, like, apart from that, the Montana Free Press is also looking at, you know, the Head Start school, and the Head Start school system in the state of Montana is dependent on federal grants and funding and stuff like that. And one particular one in the highland parts of Montana are up for renewal, which is supposed to be done by the end of this month. So while 22 Head Start programs exist in Montana, one of the rural areas are bound for closure by the end of the month. Bad timing and federal grants that expire on the 30th of this month are plaguing the highline communities of Montana, affecting 125 kids and their families. According to reports by Mara Silvers through the Montana Free Press, Julia Donnie is the director of Fort Belknap Head Start program. She worked with the organization since 1974, and as a volunteer with her own daughter was enrolled. She said that Wednesday interview that the Fort Belknap tribe government had agreed to help cover the program's expense of next month, but they said that they're unsure of if or when she'll be able to repay the loan. The program's expenses for 1 month for the staff for about 50 people, plus fuel for the buses and other supplies, could be as much as $200,000 the month alone. And she said, if we don't get refunded, the tribe will be out of that money. So, end quote. This also just the tip of the problem as we get closer and missing out on more funds and many federal programs that lack staff on federal levels to even communicate with people who are not getting that money. So as you know, we get further and further into this, I definitely don't have enough time. But I wanted to thank you guys for joining this morning, and it's very interesting how we don't have the money for one thing, and yet we use money from